My dad, Gregory George Moxeri, was the son of immigrants from Hungary, and he was born in 1918. My grandparents instilled in him the love of God, country, and family. When my dad was able to join the Army, they discovered that he had a unique talent for mechanical abilities with engines. So he soon was in charge of a fleet of Jeeps. And then prior to D-Day, he had moved up to the rank of sergeant. And he remembers that they were to march towards the deep port in the town of Cherbourg. They were to secure this and be the first division that would cross the Seine River. They marched for 3 days trying to capture the Germans, make sure that everything was clear, because eventually another unit would join them and go east. Even the German intelligence agency said that my dad's unit, the 79th Division, part of the 313th Regiment, was the best in the U.S. Army. Most veterans that I've discovered are fairly reluctant to talk about their experiences if they had been in war. And my dad was probably not any different. But I remember a night when I was about 13 that my family was all gathered around the TV watching an old John Wayne war movie. Now, as a 13-year-old, I assure you I was not particularly interested in John Wayne or John Wayne war movies. But that's what we were watching. And then out of nowhere, my dad turned to all 6 of us kids and began talking about an experience he had. He said he remembered marching for 3 days, non-stop engaging in hand-to-hand combat in France. And he said it was so intense that they never stopped to rest. They ate while they were on the move. And then he said he remembered waking up and not hearing the sounds of gunfire, no shouts or screams of the men, no booms from cannons, nothing. It was dead silence. And then as he began to lift himself up, he looked next to himself, and there was a hole deep enough in the ground that it could have held several houses. He said, "I heard nothing. I didn't feel the ground shake. I must have been so tired, I heard nothing." And he stood up and he looked around and he saw dead bodies everywhere. German soldiers, some of the men of his division, and he was just totally puzzled. Where is my division? And then he heard shouts, "Moxeri, Moxeri, you're alive." They had left my dad on the battlefield for dead, and they were going to pick him up along with the others that they were going to pick up off the field, because of course they don't leave their dead on the battleground. My dad said that this left him so impressed because he had worked very hard carrying men to receive medicine. He also saved a few men on the battlefield, but to him this was just all in the day's work of being a U.S. soldier. I don't know why my dad just suddenly blurted that out to his 6 children on a night that we're watching a movie, but he did. It must have been something that triggered a memory that he just felt he had to share. And I had a hard time comparing this man on the battlefield to my gentle, soft-spoken dad, but on that day, my dad became my first hero.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Sedlick, and I'm going to talk to you about my father, Joseph Gerard Victor L'Esperance. He was a Master Chief in the Navy. He had been in the service for 22 years. He went in when he was 15, had been around the world, and had been in some very special places and some very hard places. to be in. He was in Normandy. He led a landing craft to go to the shore to bring his men to be in the battle that was going on there. There were many of these same landing crafts all around him. He wasn't in the first grouping that went, but when his time came to go and he got close to the shore, he saw some very horrendous things going on. There was a lot of shooting, a lot of missiles and going, and a lot of his young men, the men that we had sent over there to protect us and to protect France and all of Europe, with 90-pound packs on their back, drowning. He decided that that wasn't exactly what he felt it should have been, so he tried to find a better place for them to land. And he was able to do so. He got most of his boys on the shore. When I was born in 1947, the war was over, and he was stationed in Treasure Island, and just off of San Francisco. And he talked about his wartime in a very special way, but mostly about the men that worked with him. He had been in France, yes, but he had also gone to Africa. And most of what he told us made us really very, very proud. He had an incredible gift for being with these young men. He had many friends that he kept track of. And he brought many of the men back from the war on one of the ships that he was a part of. We're very proud of all of the men who fought in the Second World War. We pray for those families who lost so many, but we know that it was such a gift that we have to have had a father, or even if you've had a brother or an uncle that was in that war. Most of them are gone now. Not too much is left. And not too many are either, but we are very, very proud of the men who fought for our country in World War II. Thank you for letting me just let you know a little bit about my father.
The New Guinea campaign of the Pacific War lasted from January 1942 until the end of the war in August 1945. During the initial phase in early 1942, the Empire of Japan invaded the territory of New Guinea on the 23rd of January and the territory of Papua on the 21st of July and overran western New Guinea beginning on March 29th. Major battles were fought, and the American death toll was 7,000, including 2,100 Marines. Tom Melvin, my father-in-law, joined the U.S. Army in January of 1941, almost 1 year before Pearl Harbor, at the age of 23. He was shipped to the battlefront immediately because of his training as a rifleman. He was assigned as a machine gun section leader. He fought with his unit and received a Bronze Star for the Papua New Guinea campaign. As a sergeant, he was sent to OCS, Officer Candidate School, at Camp Columbia in Australia, and received his commission as a second lieutenant on April 1st, 1943. He returned to New Guinea as an infantry unit commander in Company F 186th Infantry and received a Bronze Star in the New Guinea campaign in 1943. This is a description of the battle conditions in New Guinea. In the swamp country which surrounded the area were large crocodiles. Incidence of malaria was almost 100%. The swamp and jungle were typhus-ridden. Crawling roots reached out into stagnant pools infested with mosquitoes and numerous crawling insects. Every foxhole filled with water. Thompson submachine guns jammed with the gritty mud and were unreliable in the humid atmosphere. Tom was wounded in 1944 and shipped out to Australia and later the U.S. for further treatment. He was honorably discharged on December 8, 1944. He was buried with honors in Southington, Connecticut in 1998.